those horses, chase the illusions of wonder, in moments hardly seem forgotten.
Good morning. Welcome back to the DeSimone Daily Double Show. We have my good friend David Slavin here. David, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm very excited. We have one of our favorite vocalists on the line.
Full disclosure, we are Jon Anderson fans.
And in also full disclosure, I actually proposed to my wife during the talk tour during the song I Am Waiting on the 8th row of Desert Sky Pavilion.
All right. I was there.
I was there, too. So
I was there, too.
He was there, too. My wife remembers you waving after she showed you the ring kind of thing.
And so was the rain that night, as I recall.
The rain was amazing.
That was one of our classic monsters.
But the song, I Am Waiting, I love that song. Steve wasn't in the band, it was Trevor.
You are correct.
Because I was with Trevor last week, and we're actually going to do that song on our upcoming tour this winter.
You just made my wife very happy, Jon Anderson.
Thank you so much.
So if you didn't recognize that voice, that is Jon Anderson of Yes, and a famed solo career, a lot of great work with Vangelis.
And the Anderson Ponte Band.
We are so looking forward to this show, which is happening on Thursday at the Fox Theater, 7:30. Go to foxtheater.com to get your tickets. So, John, how long have you known Jean-Luc Ponte, sir?
Well, I met Jean-Luc in '77. He was in a band called My Vishnu Orchestra. And yes, My Vishnu did a tour of some shows in Texas. And I just got on with him very well. And as musicians do, you talk about, let's get together and write some music. Yeah, okay. 10 years later, I met him in L.A. and said the same thing. And then as life moves along, it took us till 2 years ago for me to connect with him, and we are really, really connected on so many levels. He's just such a great violin player, and the music he makes really works with me. I sing with his ideas. He plays along with some Yes classics, and the show is quite an amazing event for me.
So what was the spark, after you guys have been talking about this for 37 years, what was the spark that you finally did it?
Well, I was working with some friends up in Oregon through the Internet, which is the new studio. I work with people all over the world on the Internet. And Jean-Luc joined in on one of the songs, and I couldn't believe how beautiful his violin sounded with my voice. So I got in touch with Jean-Luc, and I sent him a recording of me singing on a couple of his classic tracks from the 70s. And he loved it and said we should get together. So I arranged a session up in Aspen, the opera house there, and we got together with his band, and we did a couple of shows, and we recorded and made a video of the recordings of the show. And that's why people can go out and buy the DVD and CD together. And that's what we are now, this Anderson Ponte band that... and we are moving into new directions already. We toured last year in October, November, and now we're on tour again this coming April, May. And we're talking about working next spring on a major project that I've been working on for a few years, about a violin player that finds a mystical violin. Life is like that.
Wow. You wouldn't think of the violin as a traditional rock instrument, kind of like a accordion, and it's great applications to hear some of this.
Well, Jean-Luc was the first to electrify a violin in the 70s, late 60s actually, and he joined some jazz bands in Paris. He'd studied classical music. So when we met for the first time just over a year and a half ago, up in Aspen, it was like meeting a brother from a different world. It's wonderful.
So, John, this album, Better Late Than Never, was funded through a Kickstarter campaign, which I think it's possibly your first way of ever financing an album. Explain the freedom of that and the anxieties of that.
Well, the freedom is the people that are going to get involved and help develop the adventure. The frustration, obviously, at times is that they and we said, okay, well, we'll have it ready by January, 2 months later, thinking, they're making a record, it's nothing. But eventually you finish up working more on the album, making it sound better in the studio, adding more guitars to it and things like that didn't really work on the actual live recording. And of course I would miss a few words here and there, and I had to redo some lyrics and a couple of vocals that were a little out of tune. But, you know, you make it sound as good as you can, and that takes a little bit longer. So there was one or two people got a little frustrated that it wasn't delivered in January, but it came out in April. So everybody was actually very excited when it came out, and everybody's been very sort of clear about their understanding that they were involved in it, and they helped it to come through. And, of course, Kickstarter now helps with movies, with theater, on so many levels. You know, people are getting involved with so many different kind of projects, which is great.
So this wasn't actually released then on a label, is that true?
It was released on a label, Liaison Records, and but it wasn't sort of financed by a record company. It was financed by people out there in the wide world of Kickstarter.
So when you guys did the back-end accounting of doing a Kickstarter campaign, did it work out the way you guys thought it would work out?
Very much so.
Okay,
I think,
good.
You know, Jean-Luc is the more mathematician of the group, of me and him. I'm more the dreamer. I'm dreaming about it all, you know.
So how about doing arrangements of each other's tunes, whether it's Yes tunes or Jean-Luc's tunes, and how did that process work when you were tackling a Jean-Luc tune and the other way around?
I think it just comes natural for me to want to sing if I love the music, and if Jean-Luc would present me with an idea musically, I'd just jump on it, sing, and then realize, the solo's going to come up next, and I'll just finish my lyric here, and then I'll join in later on in the song, and so on. So you find your happy medium, you know. And with the Yes music, it became very interesting working with a band of musicians that were basically very jazz fusion sort of orientated. I didn't want them to try and sound like Yes, because that's not why we got together. We want to do something a little bit more adventurous and different. So we would do well-known songs, but celebrate the talent within the band, like... we did a song, Wonder Stories, and we let the piano player do the introduction, and then he would follow me into the song, and then the band would pick it up in rehearsal, and I said, that's perfect, let's just do it like that. And then another song we do, Long Distance Runaround, we actually approached it like an Indian sort of raga, which is very, very slow and developing and very mystical, going into long distance. So, of course, when we decided to do the show, we wanted to put in the songs that people know, like Roundabout, of course, and Owner of a Lonely Heart. But with Owner of a Lonely Heart, I suggested to Jean-Luc he should do a more orchestral, rhythmic, sort of violin energy into the song and see how that fits together. And it actually worked very well. So you play a little juggling, musically speaking, and you want to put on a good show, and that's what we want to do.
Well, the show is outstanding. I saw the show at Talking Stick last year. Up in Scottsdale. And you brought up some songs, John, that I just thought I'm going to kind of jump ahead, if I may. You talked about some of the old Yes songs, Roundabout, and adding lyrics, and the way you just add lyrics to some stuff that Jean-Luc Ponte presented to you.
Sure.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right, how do you explain, and I know that you've probably been asked this hundreds of times, but your lyric writing, how do you explain what Jon Anderson brings to the table in terms of lyric writing? It's not the traditional 3-minute I love you, you love me, let's get married type of song. And
right. I think it's more or less my feeling within this search for explanation of various things that happen around us and how we move through this world and what is it really all about. And, when I got into the Long Distance Runaround, which is a pretty well-known song, it was the idea of religion really giving us a runaround. All these different religions, why aren't they the same? Because in a way, as I had read in a book, that all rivers meet the same ocean, so all religions go to the same God, sort of thing. So the Long Distance Runaround was all about that. So instead of trying to spell it out in so many words. I would dance around it, you see?
Yes.
What's amazing is you've just all the disillusioned people that think you were talking about a girl you were having a long distance relationship across the pond or something, I think is what they've been thinking all these years. One of my questions also had to do with the spirituality of your lyrics, because they seem applicable to a lot of these different spiritual traditions, which are those rivers leading to one God. What are like 2 or 3 of the main themes as you explore the spiritual side of things that keep coming up through your writing?
Oh, it's very interesting, because I've just finished an album that's coming out in June called Invention of Knowledge, that we keep reinventing ourselves constantly in order to find that happy medium between the divine energy that surrounds us and what we go through as human beings, and the craziness that seems to push us from side to side. And one of the songs I talk about, I will not surrender to the advertising, the lies of advertising that shake this avenue of faith. You know, what you hear on the radio and what you hear and see on the TV, the advertising is constant. It's sort of, after a while, it's sort of like, come on, it's so obvious what they're trying to do, you know?
Well, how many pharmaceuticals can I take in one day, Jon Anderson?
And so on, rather than give a fulfillment of life on many levels. And health, of course, is very important, and good health is excellent. If we were taught at school a little bit more about what we obviously grow up to learn as we get older, about things that surround us, it would, the Earth Mother is an incredible source of information. I started getting into biomimicry, which has become very, very, I would say, fashionable in a way. But it was on TED, that Google TED,
sure.
TED, and you get a lot of information about what people are thinking around the world. And this lady had spent a lot of time realizing that the nature of this world is actually trying to teach us about health, about trying to teach us how to use the right plants at the right time, and so on and so forth. And this conversation could go on forever, so I better stop right now.
So after you just did that great lyric about advertising, you know what we have to do? We have to go do some advertising. So
That's okay. As long as we don't take it too seriously.
Amen, brother. Hold on for 2 seconds, John. We'll get to this segment number 2. We are honored and happy to have Jon Anderson, Anderson Ponte Band, playing this Thursday, at the beautiful Fox Theater in downtown Tucson. Go to foxtheater.com to get your tickets. It is going to be a heck of a show. When we come back, Jon Anderson of Yes and Anderson Ponte.